ready? And I am recording. All right, very nice. All right. Hi, I'm Matt. I am with otherpeoplesmovies.com, and today we are going to be talking about one of my very, very favorite movies, Ed Wood, Tim Burton's Ed Wood, 1994. I first saw Ed Wood the weekend when it came out in wide release, which would have been in October. It would have been probably around October, to be exact, it probably would have been around October 8th, 1994. I have extremely fond memories. 1994 was a great year for movies. That was the year of Natural Born Killers, Pulp Fiction, Ed Wood, three of my favorite movies of all time. And Ed Wood stands very high on that. I recently I've been mentally redoing my top 10 of all time, and I had to kind of realize, yeah, Ed Wood belongs in my top 10 of all time. It's in my top 10, and it's in my top 5 of all time. So I don't know many people who are into this movie or who have even seen this movie. In fact, everybody who I know who has seen this movie is on this podcast. So yeah, but yeah, I saw it in theaters when it came out. It was one of the best viewing experiences of my life. I can't say enough good things about this movie. I'll keep saying good things about this movie. Ryan, what's your experience? When did you first see Ed Wood?
It would have been whenever it came out on VHS the first time it did.
Okay.
After it was in theaters. And it was I didn't know much about it other than like I knew who Johnny Depp was
Sure.
because of all of Tim Burton's, that because Edward Scissorhands predates Ed Wood, right?
Yes, by about 4 years, yeah.
Right. So I knew it. I was like, oh, that's Johnny Depp, that's Edward Scissorhands thing. So that's why I got it, rented it. And I remember seeing the trailer, and the trailer I remember had a very at least the trailer I remember had like a sci-fi B movie, like even the voiceover was like Tim Burton's Ed Wood.
Yeah.
But yeah, then it just kind of rented it, been like, oh, looks interesting. It's in black and white, which is like peculiar for 94. It was like, that's kind of cool. And then, watched it, and it was kind of my education of who Ed Wood actually was. I thought it was like just a character, but then at the end it says like, so-and-so went on to blah, blah, blah. And, but yeah, it would have been just when I rented it, kind of not knowing what it was, and loved it.
Yeah.
It's my favorite Tim Burton movie for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah, how about you, Robin?
I saw it at some point in the 90s on VHS. Like, I don't remember when exactly, but I mean, I already knew who Tim Burton was and Johnny Depp was and stuff. But I did know about the movie Plan 9, but I had never actually seen it, and I didn't know anything about Ed Wood.
Yeah. I didn't either when I saw the movie.
Yeah. I mean, like, I this is one of my favorite Tim Burton films as well. Like, I think this is like one of the. It's not as similar. It's not quite as similar to his other films. Like, it's different in some ways. I do like the black and white in it a lot, and probably part of the reason I like it is like just some like being at a younger age, some pretentious person being like, oh yeah, black and white film, that's the way to go, that kind of crap. So
sure.
But yeah, I mean, that's basically how I found out about it and started watching it. So
yeah, I do want to add before I get to you, Jamie. When I saw it in theaters the first time in Dublin, Ohio, there was a walkout by two kind of bro dudes during the belly dance scene. Just they were yelling at the screen, "This is sick! This is sick!" And I was like, "Oh, this is awesome." I forgot to add that story. Anyway, I thought it was great. So, and what was your introduction to Ed Wood, Jamie?
So Matt, I envy you for getting to see it first run on the big screen. So yeah.
And I saw it at the Strand the second time. The second time I saw it was at the Strand. I think they had it for me.
Yep. Okay. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So just like Robin and Ryan, I was the VHS rental. It was the little mom and pop video store, the place, town I grew up in. And I like vaguely knew about the promotion of it, but it was just like scanning the boxes in the video store, and it kind of jumped out at me. And yeah, I was really surprised. And also similar to you guys, like it was kind of, even though I was like a fan of Ed Wood style genre films and old school B movies, I didn't know about Ed Wood's story specifically. So this was my little education in that. But yeah, like it just really spoke to me. Like I remember watching that thing, and I was like, it was like light bulb moments. Like it was really cool. I like the endearing side of it, and it really inspired me. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, very much so. Yeah, it was a very inspirational movie for me too. Here's a quick question to you before we get into some factoids about the movie. Did this inspire you to seek out Ed Wood's movies? Did this movie inspire you, Ryan? Did you?
Yeah,
and I feel like. How did you feel about them?
I still think they're just atrocious. Like but I feel like there was kind of a resurfacing of his movies after that, at least where
there definitely was. There definitely
was.
It inspired me. It inspired me to look up his movies and buy some of them. So definitely.
Sure. Yeah, I think I only saw Plan 9 and was it Bride of the Monster?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that was my limit. I was like, okay, I don't need.
I think his masterpiece is Glen or Glenda. I think his masterpiece is Glen or Glenda.
Sure.
If you can ever brave it, check out Glen or Glenda. But whatever.
I'm sure it's probably on YouTube.
Alone is great.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Which one, Jimmy?
The narration in Glen or Glenda is crazy.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
There's a cool thing on YouTube I looked at where they do like a scene versus scene of the scenes from Ed Wood and the scene from the actual movie itself, like on a split screen. That's pretty interesting to watch.
I'll have to look that up. That sounds really cool. Really cool. What about you, Robin?
I've never seen any of Ed Wood.
Okay.
I've never had any maybe actually I kind of do want to see Glen and Glenda, like after like you're talking about it, like
I think that's the one to start with, and if you get anything out of Glen or Glenda, then move on to the other movies. But and I've seen Plan 9, I've seen Glen or Glenda, I've seen Bride of the Monster, and I've seen, I want to say, Sinister Urge. Yes. I think that's the other one I've seen. I've seen like 4 of them.
I think shortly after the home video release of Tim Burton's Ed Wood, I think it was Rhino Home Video.
Yes,
they got their hands on those, and they just put out a whole slew of them.
Yes, they did, and I had some of those cassettes. I don't have them anymore, but I had the Rhino cassettes. That's very true, right?
That was the early days of me starting to buy VHS tapes, and I got a few. I think they sold like an actual box set, and it may have been like covered in Angora or something, and it had like 6 VHS tapes of like the films they were able to get licensing for. But I bought, I kind of went crazy and bought a few. I bought most of that set individually.
Yeah.
And
I bought I bought Plan 9 and Glen or Glenda. Those are the 2 I bought.
And then there was like a little documentary that was made, and it was, I think it was called Look Back in Angora.
Yes.
And it was narrated by Gary Owens.
Yes.
From like, I think Laugh-In and all this crazy, well, he did SNL too, right?
I think so.
Yeah. But that kind of kick-started me with Ed Wood, and I got a real kick out of his material.
And let me ask, you just taught a class on like 50s monsters movies.
Yes.
And you showed Plan 9 from Outer Space in that class. How did your class react to it?
I kind of warned the class because it started out with like some like top tier studio productions as far as like 50s sci-fi, like with, The Day the Earth Stood Still and War of the Worlds, and it kept stepping down. And Ed Wood was I actually did everything chronologically, but I think Ed Wood was the second to last week, and or Plan 9 was, and I kind of gave them a little fair warning, like the budget and these are going to see decline, the quality is going to decline, but it's still 50 sci-fi, iconicity is going to be alive and well. And so, yeah, but the crowd, I think they got a kick out of it.
Yeah.
That was
okay.
to answer your question. Yeah, they were chuckling, and we had our little Q&A afterwards. A lot of people were just bringing up things that they thought were funny about it and ridiculous, but they enjoyed it on a mockery level, I guess.
Yeah. That's great. That's really cool. All right, we'll get into some factoids here and discuss the movie a little further. We just missed the movie's 30th anniversary. Its initial limited release was on September 30th of 1994. And we just missed Ed Wood's 100th birthday, which was on October 10th. So a couple months ago, Ed Wood would have been 100 years old had he not died at 53 from complications of alcoholism. The wide release of Ed Wood was on October 7th, 1994. It's Tim Burton's lowest grossing movie of under $6 million of a reported budget of $18 million. Martin Landau won Best Supporting Actor. It's very highly regarded amongst critics and by people who have seen it. It's very well regarded. It's just very underseen and underknown. In your experience, and we've kind of already touched on this, but again, I already said this. You guys and our friend Taliski, Robin, we did show him the movie at one point, but aside from that, you guys are the only people I've ever met who've seen this movie, let alone love it. What about you guys? Do you talk about this movie with anybody? Does it ever come up in conversation? What about you, Ryan?
Not really.
Yeah.
The last time I did was with somebody at a theater I used to play at, and all I remember is we were talking Tim Burton movies specifically, and he brought up Ed Wood.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah. And we kind of nerded out on it, just because for the same reasons. Everyone else, no one knew what the hell we were talking about. Everyone knew Beetlejuice and everything else, but yeah, no one. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it really is, because it's such a great movie, and it's so disappointing that it didn't find its audience over time. And you'd figure with Tim Burton's and Johnny Depp's and Sarah Jessica Parker's, all these people who were involved in its success later, you'd figure people would pick up on it and discover it, but hasn't happened.
I remember I was telling my fiance, and I was like, she was like, "Who's in it?" And I was like, "Fucking Bill Murray, Johnny Depp, fuck it, like so many people are in it, But yeah, it's just, I don't know. Not a lot of people saw it for whatever reason.
No. What about you, Robin? Do you talk about it with anybody?
I think two other people aside from you, Matt.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. No. What about you, Jamie?
Yeah, just initially when I discovered it, just my circle of friends, you got to see this, and then outside of that.
So you had a circle of friends as a teenager who liked this movie.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. That's more than I had.
I said, you got to see this.
Yeah.
And there was a group of us, and they were like, "Oh yeah, this is great."
Nice.
Nice. And then in college, there was a couple buddies that were familiar with it but hadn't seen it, and they watched it and liked it a lot. And then I have a coworker now who is a fan of it. He thinks it's one of Burton's better films.
Yeah.
But yeah, in everyday conversation with the average person, family members, friends, acquaintances, nobody's it's not on the radar.
Right.
But I will say that, alluding to what you guys were getting at, with the cast and everything, looking back on it, rewatching it, it seems like a movie that should be very well known. It just seems like, and I guess I get kind of deluded by my own love for it, but it seems like, oh yeah, that was on a Pulp Fiction level. Well, it is to me, but nobody ever caught on to this thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. It to me, it's the same classic status as Pulp Fiction. It's that great of a movie to me, and nobody talks about it. It has a special edition Blu-ray. It's in print. You could get it on Amazon for $12. I have it. I didn't get it right here. This Blu-ray right here, I love it. It's one of my prized possessions of my collection.
Yeah, I have
great,
the
great
DVD
special, yeah,
one, the
it's the
special
same.
edition
It's the same special features as the DVD.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, get it if you're listening to this.
I remember for a while, like when DVDs were a thing, and I started building that collection up. It's like there was like a little gap there where they were not putting that out. And I was like waiting for that.
And then they finally did it
like
right and did that double disc special edition that they came out with. Or it wasn't
was it like early 2000s?
Yeah, it was around then. It was around then. Yeah, but they really held out for a while. Yeah, I held on to I had a laser disc that I held on to for years. I held on to my laser disc of Ed Wood for years. But yeah, I want to say they held out. They held out for quite a while because I do remember it being a big deal because I've owned the movie on Laserdisc, DVD, and Blu-ray, and
I remember waiting forever for that. I'm like,
yeah. But then they finally did it, and they did it right with with an audio commentary track and all the goods and everything. So,
and that was at the height of the interactive like crazy menus.
Yeah.
They seemed like they had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah.
And then now they're just menus as basic as can be now. But
no. Did Ed Wood have a crazy menu?
When that initial DVD release, it had like it's like the crowd audience and the curtain per.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so
curtains.
Curtain part curtain. Yeah.
I don't think the Blu-ray has that.
Okay.
That.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's really
cool.
Most
of them are pretty bare bones basic now.
Yeah. They don't put the same care into that kind of stuff. When DVDs were first coming out, they put a lot of care into those menus, but they don't do it. They don't do it the same way anymore. The movie was written by Scott Alexander and Larry Karaszewski. They were hot off the success of the Problem Child movies, which were big hits but not well regarded. The script concept had been taken from them and turned from an adult comedy into a kiddie comedy. They identified with Ed Wood at the time because they felt they had made bad movies and nobody wanted to work with them outside of other kiddie comedies, which they really didn't write. They weren't considered good writers at the time and couldn't get anything else made or developed. They, of course, went on after Ed Wood to write The People vs. Larry Flint, Man on the Moon, Big Eyes, Dolomite Is My Name, and 1408, amongst other things. So they decided to put their hearts into a script about Ed Wood, who they identified with heavily at the time for the reasons that I said. They initially envisioned it as this low-budget, independently financed production for around $1 million. Like I said, the version that we know is an $18 million Tim Burton production, which is low budget for a Tim Burton movie, but it's pretty high budget for it being the subject matter that it is. Do you guys think it would have worked as like a minimal, low budget, gritty Hollywood movie or gritty independent movie, or do you think it would have worked that way, Brian?
I don't know.
Yeah. I go
That'd
back
be interesting to see, though. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see that version.
I would too. That's my response, pretty much.
Right.
I love the version that exists, but I want to see a kind of a more real version, maybe. But we'll
right. Just because of like, I mean, I feel like a lot of reason his stuff is the way it is just because of like budgetary reasons, like But I do wonder if it was like a much lower budget thing. I'll bet it would be pretty good.
Yeah.
Just because, like, they'd be much like him. They'd be making it for the love of it and for the vision and all that stuff. Because his stuff did have that, but like, I'd want to see it. I would too. I don't know if,
I would too. Not wanting to replace the version that we're talking about and that I love, but I would love to see a bare bones indie gritty telling of
in my mind. I'm thinking it would work. It would work as a more stripped down independent film, but less polished. But I think maybe work a little less than what Burton did with the studio.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. What do you think, Robin?
I mean, maybe if it was like an Ed Wood version of Ed Wood, it'd be interesting to see so shitty like that, But
well, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag on this because I'm gonna probably say this in regards to other questions that I asked, but I feel like Tim Burton's Ed Wood is the movie Ed Wood would have made about Ed Wood if he had the budget and the talent to do it, and the budget and the resources to do it, and the talent. And I think what's cool about the Tim Burton movie is that it gives the Ed Wood and his sensibilities the resources that they deserve and the resources that he always needed.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I would love to see a movie that is made almost Ed Wood style, like with the budget and the grittiness and the lack of polish, like you said, Jamie. That I would love to see that movie, that grittier, homemade feeling Ed Wood movie. I'd love to see it. I would love to see it. Without discrediting the Tim Burton movie, I would love to see it.
You mean like a biopic of Ed Wood done Ed Wood style? Okay.
Yes.
Right. Gotcha.
I would love to see that. I would love to see that.
Yeah.
And you're kind of picturing it like more straight, nothing's going to be heightened,
right
it's going to
kind
be
of
romanticized,
right which the movie very much does, but we'll get into this later, I hope, but the movie very much romanticizes Ed Wood, but it does it it knows it's doing it, and it does it with purpose. It does it with an intention. It's presenting these characters with love. So, and that's what
you made a real good point about, is that when you offered up that suggestion, is this like the movie Ed Wood would have made if he could have, it's like, it kind of reminds me, I didn't ever thought about it in that sense, but yeah, like he definitely like deserved that due to like his circumstances, but because it's like almost one time several years back, the Farrelly brothers did like a Three Stooges movie, and a lot of people were like perplexed. And I remember an interview with them. They said, "Why did you make this?" They were like, "Well, they were always relegated to those shorts, and it was always like B, C tier." But he's like, "This is the movie that they deserve," And they felt like it was incumbent upon them to like put this out. And I was like, all right, that was respectable,
Okay, yeah, that's cool. Unfortunately, I didn't get that from that particular movie, but I get that from Ed Wood. So I do need to see that Farrelly Brothers movie again one more time. I didn't dislike it, and I don't think it deserved the hate it got. But another topic. But no, I totally know what you're saying. But yeah. All right. Michael Lehman, a good director friend of the writers, was coming off Hudson Hawk, a poorly received and notorious financial disaster. He was enthusiastic about directing Ed Wood, given his and the writers' reputations and the movies they were involved with at the time. They all thought they should get together and make a film about the worst filmmaker of all time. They'd be directing what they know. They all went to producer Denise Denovi, who had produced the Lehman-directed cult classic Heathers, and they hoped that she and Tim Burton, who she was working with at the time, she had produced like Batman Returns, and I want to say she was one of the producers of Nightmare Before Christmas, and she had produced a number of his movies. They were close. They had a close working relationship at the time, and they would put their names. The hope was that Denovi and Burton would put their names on it as producers. However, the writers wrote a treatment that thrilled Burton so much that he wanted to direct it. Lehman, who was about to direct the comedy Airheads, and Burton agreed to swap places, and Lehman decided instead to co-produce, and Burton decided to direct. Can you imagine anybody else but Tim Burton directing this movie? Going back to what the last question was, I'd like to see a less polished, a less loving take on Ed Wood at some point in my life. Yes, I would like to see that. Do I want this particular movie to have a different director? Absolutely not. Like, I could see Michael Lehman making a really cool movie about Ed Wood. He's a fantastic director, and Heathers is in my top 10 of all time as well. But I would love to see a different director take on the story of Ed Wood. I think there's different interpretations to be had, and we'll get into that when I bring up the book in a little bit. But I would never change Tim Burton's movie. So I want I want both the Tim Burton movie and I want to see a different take on it. So what do you think, Ryan?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that Tim Burton's one should just be untouched, obviously. But
yeah,
if they were going to do another, like as far as directors, I'm probably going to fuck up his name. Was it Michael Gordon Green?
Oh, David Gordon Green.
David Gordon. Yeah, yeah. I'll watch anything he directs. So if he did one, I'd be super curious to see.
Nutcrackers is on. Yes, he would do good. And Nutcrackers on Hulu, I highly recommend. It's a good Christmas movie.
Did he do it?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's got Ben Stiller. It's. I don't want to get off topic, but
sure.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. What about you, Robin? Can you imagine anybody but Tim Burton doing it?
Yeah, I could see the Coen brothers doing it. Like, I just think of like Barton Fink, and like I get sort of the same feeling from them. I mean, probably because of the period of time it takes place in, and that it's film related. But
interesting.
I mean, I could see him doing it in that sense. Yeah, that's honestly the only like other group of people or director or whatever that I could see possibly doing it. Though I still do like Tim Burton's version better, and like. You know, going back to like a more independent version, I think of like indie films I know from the 90s, and I can't imagine any like indie director like doing a good job with that. So
yeah, I think Michael Lehman
nowadays it might be different, but
yeah, I think Michael Lehman would have been a good choice, but he wouldn't have made the same movie as Tim Burton.
No, like you thinking about whatchamacallit, Hudson Hawk, like that's a completely different looking style of movie that is extremely Hollywood, like compared to this, you know.
Sure.
But
yeah. Tim Burton's blended, like it wasn't just being like, hey, doesn't this guy's movies suck? It was very honorary, you know what I mean? Like it really was like an homage from one filmmaker to another.
Absolutely. I will get into this again, but the movie is told with love. It loves these subjects. That's one of the cool things about the movie is it's an ode to the underdog. It's an ode to beautiful losers. You know what I mean? And it's not judging them. It's not laughing at them. It's laughing with them. It's for these people. It's a movie that's it pays homage to these people. It respects these people. So
and it shows that like that kind of industry out there just is still. It's always been like that. Money. He says like, I'm glad I was able to rewatch it to have it fresh in my brain. But like, just when the guy like tells him, he's like, I'm just looking for. I don't hire guys with burning desires. I just need
to tell their stories.
Experience who can get me something in 4 days and make a profit. Like. And I'm sure Tim Burton had his share of dealing with just that whole business, just all the bullshit out there of dealing with. It's just all money. But like, having rewatched it, I never laughed before at when he says, "This is the one. Mm-hmm. This is the one they're going to remember me for."
Yeah,
and it is. But it's also has been voted the worst movie of all time by like many, things, and it's just like it's almost heartbreaking in a way. But it's
it's definitely a bittersweet movie, and it's definitely a bittersweet movie. What about you, Jamie? Can you picture anybody but Tim Burton directing it?
I mean, just loving what Burton did with it so much. It's hard, but I think if there was somebody else, it would have to be somebody that also had those like Ed Wood sensibilities, I could see maybe like a Jarmusch doing something.
Okay.
Or
that would be interesting. I think
this director would be really interested in doing this, but I would be interested in seeing John Waters do it.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, no shit.
Ooh. Yeah. I actually think he could get close to the Ed Wood style too.
John Waters, it didn't even occur to me, John Waters. He would be perfect. Oh wow.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh wow.
Big time.
I would love to see a John Waters Ed Wood movie. Oh wow. Yes. That's a great suggestion.
I mean I could see you know, a lot of the things that he did over the years with characterization. It reminds me a lot of the Ed Wood style.
Crybaby, let alone his earlier Baltimore movies, but Crybaby alone, it fits it. I mean, you've got the Baptists as villains. You've got the yeah. I can totally see that.
It's possible. Obviously, I'm throwing that project at him, but it's something I would like to see. I don't know if he'd be.
I would love to see that. Actually, John, I have the book right here, and John Waters does have a blurb on it. Yes, he has a blurb on the back, so he is an Ed Wood fan. He has a blurb promoting that book. But yeah, I aside from Tim Burton, that is a wonderful answer. I can't think of anybody other than John Waters. Jim Jarmusch is definitely a good choice too, but John Waters, oh man, he could knock it out of the park. He could do something different, but it would be similar. That would be interesting. That would be interesting. All right, the script was written in 6 weeks, and Burton was so thrilled with the first draft. It was a first draft that was filmed, that he wanted to film it with no notes and also drop out of another movie he was attached to at the time, which was Mary Riley with Julia Roberts, which did get made without him, to make it his next film. Burton's work, especially Pee-wee's Big Adventure and Beetlejuice, had been maligned by many critics early on, and he identified heavily with the character of Ed Wood and with the script. The personal relationship between Ed Wood and Bela Lugosi also resonated with Burton due to his own similar and personal friendship with his longtime hero, friend, and collaborator, Vincent Price, who died roughly a year before the movie Ed Wood's release. Interesting little tidbit that Tim Burton had a really close friendship with Vincent Price before he died, and Ed Wood is kind of, I think he put a lot of that into Ed Wood. So yeah. The writers chose to only focus on some aspects of Wood's life rather than his entire life, like a typical biopic. They felt it should focus on what he's most remembered for, the Lugosi movies and his relationship with Lugosi. Is the movie at all lacking from not having a typical biopic structure? I'm just gonna say right now, I'm so bored with the biopic structure. It's such a formula. It's such a predictable formula anymore. I think this movie is a breath of fresh air. I think it's a biopic unlike any other biopic. It selects the moment to focus on, and I think it for that for the reason that it just it chooses so sparingly what parts of his life to focus on. It's that reason that it's my favorite biopic. So, what do you guys think? Do you guys think it could have used any typical biopic structure, or do you think it works as is? I mean, do you?
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
Like I dislike almost all biopics because they rush through a whole person's life in 2.5 hours.
It's so boring.
It's like
it's so boring.
Yeah. If they don't allow you to go into too much depth about it,
Yeah.
And this one does a good job with that, like
most
focusing,
of their scripts,
like you're saying.
Most of Scott Alexander and Larry Karaszewski's scripts, like Man on the Moon and People versus Larry Flint, most of them are successful. And Dolomite is my name. They follow the same kind of sensibilities and the same structure. They don't follow a typical structure, so. They work. They work for that reason. They're interesting and they're fascinating for that reason. Yeah. What do you think, Ryan?
No, I agree completely. Then, there's like this Bob Dylan thing that's about to come out. Just looks, just ugh.
That's a movie that it's just like, oh my god, I think I have to see that because I should see it, but I don't want to sit through it. That's my reaction to that movie.
It was inevitable.
Yeah.
That they would make a Bob Dylan thing. That's just.
Yeah.
Shouldn't they wait till he's dead before they release it?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, just with every single time, it's just La Bamba over and over. It's just that same kind of, like it always has the same, oh, I'm struggling. Oh, I'm making it, and there's drugs, and then it's just it's very kind of the same. You've seen one, you've seen them all.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely was a breath of fresh air because like I don't know that anyone particularly cares about what Ed Wood's life was like and shit stain wherever he grew up. Like it's
read this book if you want to.
Oh sure.
Nightmare of Ecstasy.
But I feel like there's probably stuff we're missing from it from his life, but I don't think it's about his life. It's about his career and
exactly. It's about that moment in time where he's gonna be remembered for it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think his friendship with Lugosi was something like super special, and I love that they highlighted that so much. And like it was more. I even rewatching it, I was like, was he trying to like cash in on this, like, ooh, I know this celebrity and stuff? But I don't think he was. I think they really
in the movie definitely not. It depends on who you talk to in reality. Sure. It depends on who you talk to. From what I gather and from reading the book and other accounts, I think they had genuine affection for each other. I think there was an aspect of Ed Wood maybe using Lugosi a little bit.
Sure.
But that's Hollywood. You do what you got to do to get the movie made. It's like you get stars in movies to get financing. He got the little financing he got for his movies at times because Lugosi was in his movies. So he was paying him. He was paying Lugosi for his time, not what Lugosi was used to. But yeah.
Yeah, and that's why wouldn't he? If I was making a new album with Kim Deal or something, I wouldn't leave that part out of it.
Exactly. Exactly.
But it's perfect. It doesn't. We don't need to see any childhood or anything like that. That's awesome.
Yeah. What about you, Jamie?
I think that like you had just mentioned, some people criticize what Ed Wood bringing Lugosi in, but I don't think at any point it was ever exploitive, and Lugosi was, at that point broke, so he like needed the cash. I think they were like helping each other, but then, you can't deny, that there's like letters that were written that were like, as a child, like that was like, he loved Lugosi. Like that was like his earliest memories was Ed Wood going to see Dracula films. So it's like, I think that's, what you had mentioned, the writers, I think that they really, played that up when they were pitching it to Burton.
Yeah.
Because they knew of the relationship he had with Vincent Price. And they're like, okay, let's.
Yeah.
But it really evolved by them pushing that more, even going back to the biopic thing. It's almost like a mini biopic of Lugosi as well.
A little bit. Yeah.
But with that being like they're focusing on their relationship, you're getting a little bit of both of these guys, obviously at a certain point in their career.
Right.
I do agree that, it is refreshing that they,
Whoops. We lost Jamie for a second there. Whoops. We're reconnecting. We lost Jamie for just a second here. You there, Jamie? It says we're reconnecting. There we go. There you are. We lost you for just a second there, Jamie. All right. Oh.
Shit.
It looks like he's frozen again. We'll get it working here. Wonder what happened. Well, little technical malfunction, but that's okay. Let me see here. Let me try.
He might call back. Yeah, or he might call
ringing him back. There we go. Let me see if that works. We got him there. Well, that's. Wonder what's going on here. Well,
maybe just internet.
Could just be. I know he's on his phone, but that shouldn't be.
Oh, gotcha.
We'll try again here. There he is.
We go.
All right, there we go. Sorry about that, Jamie. Can you hear us? Oh shoot. Oh shoot.
there's a Key and Peele sketch that's like this that cracks me. It's the freeze frames that make me laugh.
It's the this is real, guys. This is real. I'm not gonna edit this out or anything. We're just gonna
I mean, next time he's able to rejoin, maybe have him turn off the camera, because that sometimes helps.
Okay.
Like when I'm in calls, if like my internet is breaking up during a call, like I'll turn off the camera, and that helps to make it run faster or normally.
All right.
Or from his computer, but it might be a pain in the ass.
Right.
If he doesn't already have it on his computer.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
Try again. Let's see if he freezes. So far, he's not freezing. All right. Can you hear us, Jamie?
Yep. Right. Everything sounds good.
Okay. We got you back. Okay. So you were talking about the biopic structure, and I think you froze again. Shoot. Yeah.
It's always funny if people freeze like that. You know what I mean? Oh, there we go.
All right.
Okay. So yeah, basically, I like that they focused on that relationship, and I think Landau, said that he looked at it like, it was like, relationship between two men, Yeah. And I think that worked really, really well.
Yeah, it's a beautiful relationship in the movie, and as I'll say, as I'll just say it now, pretty much everything that's in the movie is in the book, but and so that relationship was real. I think the movie just really highlights it and really focuses on it. The friendship may not have been quite as important to either of them as you would think in the movie, but we got Jamie. But
lost your train of thoughts completely.
Yeah, I lost my train of thought, but that's okay.
Was that book like their reference for the movie?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe so. It's an oral history. It's all an oral history.
Oh, the book is?
Yeah, the book's all just different accounts from different people. I love
oral histories.
Check it out sometime.
That sounds a lot better.
I think it's out of print now, but
sure.
You check the Chicago libraries. You should probably be able to find a copy.
Nice.
But yeah, I agree with that, Jamie. Okay, so the script was based on the book Nightmare of Ecstasy by Rudolph Gray, as I've said. The book is much grittier and filled with many sordid details. The movie definitely cherry picks history, as I've alluded to, though just about everything in the movie, as I've said, happens in one way or another in the book. For instance, the movie only briefly mentions Ed Wood's alcoholism, which most people who talk about it in the book, most people say that's his. I know. Most people say that's his primary downfall is his alcoholism. The movie barely touches on it.
He does retreat to the bars often, but that's like
you see him with a drink in his hand a couple times here and there.
It hints it,
Yeah,
but
and it's brought up in the coda. But well, shoot, I feel bad for Jamie here.
No, there we go.
There we go. We'll keep trying here. Well, I wonder what's going on here. Maybe try plug it. Maybe his phone needs to be plugged in. Maybe it's like the power source or something. But yeah, we'll ask Jamie here in a second here.
Sure.
This is real, guys. It's all real. It's unrehearsed.
Because if you stop it and restart it again, doesn't it? Like create a new file or something?
Yeah,
or
it's gonna create a new file, so I'm not gonna do that. All righty, we'll keep trying, Jamie. Sorry that keeps happening to you.
Yeah, it must.
Oh,
this feels like pandemic, like
yeah.
during lockdown.
Well, we'll try. Is your phone plugged in?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got full power here, and I just.
Somebody suggested you turning off. Robin suggested you turning off your phone, or you not off your not your phone, your camera, the video.
Camera, yeah.
Yes, I did do that.
Okay.
I heard him say that, and I did that.
Oh, okay.
Does it make any difference? Okay. Well, can you hear us when you go off? Can you still hear us?
Yeah, I can still hear audio when you guys freeze.
Okay. Then hopefully we'll just keep going, and then hopefully you'll be able to catch up and everything. So
yeah.
All right. Cool. And so I've just brought up the book, and the book has a lot of sordid details. Does knowing that the movie kind of left out and cherry picked history, does that affect your opinion of the movie at all?
No.
Okay.
Not at all. No, because I think that they really highlighted, those 3 key films with Glenn or Glenda and Bride of the Monster and Plan 9, and I think like we said, with focusing on a relationship, and I thought that I liked that they cherry picked, and I thought they did it well.
Okay. Well, they said that they really wanted to do a loving look at these people. They really wanted to present them in the best possible light. I have no problem with that. I think it's better than creating just a terrible, like depicting somebody completely inaccurately and doing it terribly. Yeah. I think in this regard, they love these characters. So they're not going to show some of the, like for instance, in the book, you hear some details about Ed Wood and Kathy Wood's marriage. They had a real alcoholic Sid and Nancy thing going. They loved each other. They were with each other till the day he died. But you don't really get a sense in the movie how destructive that relationship was. And then you read about it in the book, and it's like, okay, they were a couple of drunks who treated each other as you would expect a couple of drunks to treat each other.
And I think even Burton said, even about like some of the like smaller characters, like the Ed Wood players, and the crew, and Vampira, like she had some negative things about her experiences, but Burton and as well as the writers, like they really wanted to be respectful of all these people because they really appreciate and grew up on these people. It's like, so it's like, I'm down with that.
I am too.
It was, I hate to use the cliche love letter, but it really was.
It is,
and it worked really well.
It's a total love letter to these people.
And that's what gives it some charm, Yeah. And there are some dark moments, but
absolutely. And as we said earlier, there's probably another movie that could be made about Ed Wood's life that does include these sordid details, and I would be there to watch it. But Tim Burton's version serves its purpose, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I wouldn't change it for the world.
It's one of the better love letters, I think.
Yeah.
And just the subject matter is what makes it so entertaining. It's just like they're about these movies that are known to be really, really, really bad.
Yeah.
But just that alone, I'm sold.
Yeah. Very much so. What about you, Robin? Did you feel like Robin? I'm sorry, Jamie. Did I interrupt you?
Oh, I was just going to throw in there, like it's like Ryan was saying, it's like a movie about making movies, and that's another thing that I've always found myself being attracted to. It's like before I even realized, I'm like, wait a minute, a lot of these movies I love are about the industry or something like a behind the scenes look at something, or But this falls into that category, and I think that subject matter really plays heavily into. It's like that curiosity factor, like what was going on with, how did they make this really bad movie? Like
absolutely. Yeah.
Well, and Matt, too, Matt. Like as a kid, I loved Dracula and Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, and like Lon Chaney movies and all that stuff. I loved that shit as a kid. So like, renting it just because it was like, oh, Johnny Depp's in it, and then kind of seeing what it was about was like, just holy shit. And it kind of introduced me to all those creature from not even Black Lagoon. Just Jamie, I'm sure you know these, like those old, like, I mean, Ed Wood he wasn't the only one making shitty movies at the time.
Oh yeah,
there's so many of those, like, you know, Spider from Outer Space and blah 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 from Beyond. You know, like, it introduced me to all that universe of like Atomic Age stuff.
Sure,
but
yeah. What about you, Robin? Do you knowing the books a little grittier, does that change your opinion of the movie at all?
No. No. I mean, perhaps if I had read the book before I saw the movie, I would feel differently. But I've never looked at this book before, so I don't know anything except from what you're telling me now. You know, like
I didn't read the book till after I saw the movie, so it didn't. Right. It didn't change my opinion of the movie at all. It didn't.
Yeah. No. I mean, I probably wouldn't feel any differently about it. Like, not much more than what we've already been talking about. Sorry to go back to this, Jamie. It's funny that you mentioned like your interests in movies about making movies, and it's like that's probably why I think similarly to Barton Fink with this, is because that's what that movie is. You know? But anyway, yeah.
Cool. Yeah. And I love Barton Fink. That's definitely one of my favorite Coen Brothers movies. Burton says the last hurdle in getting the film made was being able to do it in black and white. Other studios passed on it, but Disney / Touchstone reluctantly agreed. Burton wouldn't have it any other way. The writers just assumed that the movie would be in color when they wrote it. Could the movie has worked as well? Can you imagine the movie in color? Might it have been a bigger success if it were in color? What do you guys think?
I mean, I think it would have been fine in color because, like, think of how Edward Scissorhands takes place in. That's the 50s it takes place in, isn't it? Or is it the early 60s?
I think it's timeless. I think Edward Scissorhands is kind of... I don't think there's a specific time mentioned in it because it could be any time.
But, I mean, it still has, like, that 50s, ideal 60s, American suburban life.
Much, 50s, right, yeah. I was thinking about that just the other day, honestly, and
it's weird.
I would... 50s, 60s decor,
yeah. I mean, I could see it working in color based on how he made that one look. Yeah. Like, but I still do think it's better in black and white just because, like, you know, all of Ed Wood's films were in black and white. The Dracula films, like all those classic ones, were in black and white. So it's much better this way, in my opinion. But
it might have been Burton. Somebody along the line said it just didn't feel right having Bela Lugosi be in color.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Well, none of that, but like it plays along with like the more dramatic lighting you get in black and white films, like which is what they were doing. Like obviously, like in Dracula, and I don't know if he did this and if Tim Burton did this in Ed Wood, but like, you know, having the extreme makeup too for adding more like shadow dramatic effects to, like, you know, that works well. Like I guess I could see that a little bit in like Bela Lugosi's character in this, but not quite as much as you would in a classic film.
Right.
Well, I think it was specifically the Lugosi makeup test. Was it Rick Baker that did that?
That's a good question. I think it was so.
Baker was doing these initial tests, and they were looking at video of it, and they were like saying to each other, like, we've never really seen pictures of Lugosi in color.
Yeah.
There was all these discussions about what color his eyes were going to be.
Yeah.
And I think Burton like turned off the color setting on a monitor, and they were like, that's perfect.
Yeah.
And it was a black and white image, and like there was no looking back at that point.
Yeah. Burton really held out for black and white. And I am of the opinion that rightfully so. Yes, I can see the movie working in color, but black and white just gives it a whole level of reality that it just works. It just works beautifully.
Well, even to add on to what Robin was saying about, you know, like all the Ed Wood films and the Dracula films are black and white. You know, there's also a lot of that studio stuff with the 50s TV with Vampire Show. You know, a lot of that was all transmitted in black and white to the viewers at home. So it just it just, that whole period, it just, really sells it.
Yeah, very much.
I mean, and honestly, like looking at the when they're actually filming like the scenes of like Plan 9 or the other movies in it, it's like that would have looked kind of crappy as a color version. I realize it's the making of the film, but like the effects, like like how the UFOs look in them on fire, or like the mist like rising up in smoke, like that would have looked shitty in color. It's better to keep it as black and white,
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
It is interesting that it wasn't some little hip trendy decision. It was just like, this is just objectively better. This just works better on every level.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And Tim Burton was definitely at the height of his career at the time, so he could make powerful decisions. Like Ed Wood is the kind of movie that could only get made in the studio system by a director at the height of their career. You know what I mean? So I mean, that's what's so cool about this movie is it kind of slipped in under the radar because Tim Burton was so successful at the time, and Did you think it could have worked any better in color, Ryan?
It wouldn't have been a total atrocity. I just, if I had to pick, I think it works better in black and white. But it wouldn't have been like, this is bad.
Yeah.
Because it's in color.
No. Yeah, exactly. But the black and white, knowing it in black and white, it just adds a whole level of reality to it that totally you can't get with color.
What was that Jim Jarmusch, like talking about with Jim Jarmusch, what was that vampire movie that he did? Because I could see like the coloring in
Only Lovers Left Alive.
Is that what it is?
I think so. The one with
I could see the coloring for that working. Sorry, what?
Is this one black and white?
No, it's not. But what I was going to say is like I could see like the color style in that working for this. Like something that's sort of like dark, not even necessarily in lighting, but like just the whole like coloring is like dull and dark in it.
Interesting. I've seen that movie once, but it's been a long time. So
same. I think it was like a decade ago I saw it.
I don't remember it very well at all.
I'm no like cinema expert or anything, but like I do, if you watch some of those like old Dracula movies and stuff, there are kind of noticeable like shots where there's just like a light like right here, just because it makes their face look creepy. You know what I mean? Like it's
like a light from below or something.
Yeah, and they do that in Ed Wood a lot, like when they're watching, right? And and that stuff. Again, I'm not an expert, but my hunch is it feels to work better with black and white.
Yeah.
It's just like a light here.
It's like that sequence
without a doubt.
Yeah.
Right.
Without a doubt.
That's like that sequence when Ed goes over to help Bela Lugosi and Bela pulls the gun on him.
Exactly.
That whole sequence is exactly what you just described. And how can that work as well in color? I can't picture that working and having the same effect.
Die Hard 1 and any Tony Scott film, like he manages to pull it off in colors. That's all.
Fair enough.
Well, I mean, even right before when Lugosi's in trouble and he calls Ed Wood over to his house and he's like knocking on the door and Depp's character Ed Wood is like in complete shadow.
Yes.
And
I
he's
love that shot when he's knocking
outside of the house, not inside of the house. I mean, some of those dramatic things, really speak to old noir or German expressionism. But the black and white gives you a lot more.
Stefan Chopsky.
Black and white gives you so much more atmosphere.
Yeah. The cinematographer Stefan Chopsky is amazing. He's amazing.
And what Ryan was saying earlier about like putting those lights in weird spots. It's like it's all throughout this film, and it works. It's like so cool. Like even that opening shot with Jeffrey Jones as Criswell comes out.
There's a light in the coffin, right?
Yeah, he's lit from underneath it. That light has to be under the part of the coffin. It's still shut, but it looks so freaking cool.
Yeah,
big time.
Very much so. All right, we will move on to actors and their roles. All right, so of course we're going to talk about. Let's just say a few words about Ed Wood, Johnny Depp. His performance is partially influenced by Ronald Reagan and Casey Kasem, which you can see, which you can actually see when you look at the movie. I mean, I don't have a lot to say about him in this movie other than I love him, I love him, I love him. This is one of my favorite Johnny Depp performances. Edward Scissorhands is my favorite Johnny Depp movie. It's my favorite Tim Burton movie. It's my favorite movie. It's my favorite movie of all time. Ed Wood might be my favorite Johnny Depp performance. It's up there with like Fear and Loathing and his classics and What's Eating Gilbert Grape and all his quirky '90s classics that he was truly great in. This is at the very top of the heap. It's just he just plays it with such endless optimism, and it's inspiring and humorous, and he's just a very endearing character. He just the character he created playing Ed Wood is just, he's very endearing. You love him, you want to see him succeed.
Mm-hmm.
He's the hero of the movie. Yeah, you just love him. What do you guys think of Johnny Depp?
He's fantastic, and I mean, it's I think all of us know Johnny Depp before he just became Captain Jack, just before that was kind of like his identity now, you know? So like, it's knowing when he was kind of this just like crazy good actor, not that he isn't anymore, but like, I just feel like he's just got so enveloped in like this trial shit and all this stuff now that like, he's just, you know what I mean? But it's definitely it's my favorite performance of his. Yeah. Cause it's just his voice and everything. That's funny. You mentioned the Ronald Reagan thing because he is very kind of like, you know,
well, mommy and I,
right. But yeah, no, he's great in it. I'd have to look at like a list of '90s actors to be like, who the hell else could have maybe done this?
Yeah, I mean, Johnny Depp owns this role. I can't imagine. Right. I mean, even Nicolas Cage, I can't imagine playing this role, and that's right. You know, I can imagine Nicolas Cage playing any role. But no, I can't imagine anybody but Johnny Depp playing this role, and he I mean, this is the role he was born to play. This quirky outsider, you know, just that it's like he was practicing for it with Benny and June. You know, it's like in everything that he did prior to it. It's just
it's much better than him trying to play like a serious role. Like I like the humor on this. Yeah. Like because it's so unique. Like he sort of acts the same way in all of his other films, you know, like where he's just trying to act seriously. This is much better in my opinion. Yeah. And you know, I also sort of think of like George Clooney in Oh Brother Where Art Thou, how his like acting in that is very different and humorous compared to his other films. Like I sort of see it the same way, and that's actually like one of my favorite like George Clooney movies too, like because of that. You know, it's so different from how he tries to act like like some serious like, you know, actor who's like I don't know, but anyway, like
it's like you could almost tell they were having fun playing that.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, exactly.
Yes. I mean, Johnny Depp is obviously having a blast playing this character.
Yeah, and it's like definitely coming off of, you know, like those three you mentioned, where it's like, you know, Gilbert Grape was more subdued performance, Benny and June, there's all this pantomime and like almost silent in Edward Scissorhands, and then like Burton's like, no, he got this guy that he won't shut up, you know. And it's just like it was a nice contrast to just see him just out there, you know, blasting it.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
And I think that there was some controversy when it came out. Like some critics were like slamming Depp, saying that he was taking on or like doing a riff on John Lovitz. And I saw there was like a junket presser interview, and someone like said, well, what do you think about that? And he's like, oh, I did hear that. And he's like, that really upsets me. And then, you know, obviously he gets into how he gets always has like an amalgam of a few different people that he had in mind. And, you know, that's when he mentioned Reagan and the Casey Kasem voice. And I think the Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz.
Yes, I forgot to write that down. Yes, it was the Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz was another one. Yes.
Yeah, just that internal optimism. And
Yeah, he's great. I mean, it's a very childlike performance. Martin Landau, Bela Lugosi. I mean, again, I don't have much to say. He's just flat out great. It's a great performance. That Oscar was well deserved. I'm so happy he won. I still remember his Oscar speech. One of the first things he said was, "I think that everybody who saw it is in this room."
Did he also say something that he like shared the award with Lugosi or something?
I don't remember. Yeah. I don't remember. But yeah, I don't have much to say about him other than great. Now,
when I first saw this, like I just kind of like he was Lugosi, and then I saw an interview with him and saying that like he felt it was like really challenging. He felt, and he even like had early conversations with Burton when they were like casting, and he was like, "What the heck? Like, you really see me?" And he was like, Burton's like, "Yes, you're gonna be perfect," But he felt that Lugosi was shorter than him, I think, and so he tried to make his stature seem a little smaller. And he said like some of his facial mannerisms, like Lando said, like he had like really wide expressive eyes, where Lugosi had like small little beady eyes. But he like went to great lengths not only to get the Hungarian accent, but to get all like the mannerisms of Lugosi. And I think he just nailed it. And that Oscar was so well deserved. And I mean, just what a heartfelt performance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Very, very respectful of Lugosi. And again, like we already mentioned, in some of his worst days,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And it does get into like, I know said that book has some darker aspects. I mean, he's shooting up morphine the entire movie. Like
that's true.
It's pretty dark, but
it is.
But yeah, he like, because I mean, it's like Martin Land. I mean, there's like photos of him with fucking James Dean and shit, like taking acting classes. Like he's like an old school actor, and like, God, he really nailed it, and they're both so funny. Like he nails this role, but he's so funny. Like every time he says "fuck you" to everybody around him, like,
he had some of the best lines.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
Oh yeah, like the scene where they want his autograph, and they he's like the secondary role, the assistant role or whatever. And
right.
Like,
you were great as Karloff's sidekick.
Yes.
Karloff does not deserve to smell my shit.
I have that line written down. Karloff does not deserve to smell my shit. That limey cocksucker can rot in hell for all I care.
Yeah, it's a great line.
And at the end too, where he's like shooting the octopus scene, he's like, "It'll warm up once you're in there." Fuck you! You come out here. He says, "Fuck you" at least, right? He says, "Fuck you" at least twice to people around him.
Yeah.
And like something that I don't know why it made me laugh so hard, but when I was rewatching it, when they're watching the movie and he goes into his kitchen to like shoot up morphine or whatever, and he's off screen. I don't know why it makes me laugh so much. You just hear him drop something and just say, "Oh shit!"
No, it's hilarious. It's like, right? I agree with you. Yeah.
No, he's just so in character that every little thing he does just Well, Sarah Jessica Parker is Dolores Fuller. I think she's great in the movie. This is one of my. I don't mind her as an actress at all. I've never disliked her. She's been in some of my L.A. Stories, another favorite of mine, the Steve Martin movie. I've seen as Robin can identify with me on. You've also seen all the episodes of Sex and the City. I'm not proud of it. I did it for a girlfriend.
Sure.
But I think she's great in the movie. And the writers observed that the people who come across as villains in the movie, like the Baptists and Dolores Fuller, are the people who question Ed, are the people who have kind of voices of reason. Like they're actually in reality probably right, but in the world of the movie, they're a villain. And I think that I can understand how that works with her character, but I think she's great. How do you guys feel about her?
Yeah, she does a good job. I could see her being played by somebody else, also her character, but I think she does a good job with it.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I thought she was good.
Yeah.
Like it's worth noting that the actual Dolores Fuller did not speak highly of Sarah Jessica Parker.
No.
Really?
She came out. She didn't care for her interpretation of her. She didn't care for the movie. She actually, the real Dolores Fuller actually came out and said pretty bluntly, "I left him because of his alcoholism. I didn't leave him because he made bad movies. I left him because he was an alcoholic." And she said the movie barely touches on that. Yeah, she was not a fan of the movie.
Sure. Yeah, I thought she was great. I like, again, like you all have seen it countless times, but rewatching it, I just, how soon in the movie she says, "Do I really have a face like a horse?" is brutal.
Yeah.
Because like, I don't know. I'm like, did they put that in because Sarah Jessica, like, because her appearance, or was that in a was that in an actual review or something? I was just like, that is so brutal.
Yes, that's brutal. I don't know. I don't know if that was tailored for Sarah Jessica Parker or not. I think she's a beautiful woman. I don't think she looks
100%.
Yeah, I mean, she's a beautiful woman.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. Right. That's a good question. But no,
she's so funny in it.
And my dream woman, Patricia Arquette as Kathy O'Hara Wood. This is one of my favorite Patricia Arquette performances of many. I think she's a wonderful actress. She's just, I mean, like I said, the book, the character, little bit more plagued by alcoholism, a little bit more troubled relationship than what we saw in the movie. But what I love about her performance in the movie is that she's just so accepting and she's just this figure of acceptance for Ed Wood. And that's what he needs at that point in his life and in the story. And it's a beautiful relationship, and Patricia Arquette embodies that non-judgmental, loving, I'm searching for the right word, just that nature, just so effortlessly. She's just so good at exhibiting, and she can do anything. She can do just about anything. But she just she plays that, and it's a very touching relationship in the movie, and it's not even that huge of a part of the movie, but it's done so well, and it just works so well. What do you guys think of her?
I thought she was great, and it's not a huge part, but it's like a very important part.
Yes,
and like she's obviously they're like playing loosely with the real love interest of Ed Wood, but in the context of this film, like she's the woman he needed. And she was all the nurturing, supportive things that he wasn't getting from Sarah Jessica Parker's character. Right. So it just speaks to him relating to like one more underdog that became part of the motley crew of Ed Wood players.
Totally. What do you guys think?
I mean, I agree with you that she does play like a supportive character and whatnot, but I don't think she's that important. Like, meaning that like Patricia Arquette, like I just don't think she has like much enthusiasm to her character. Like I mean, I like her much better in like True Romance or Flirting with Disaster. Like,
interesting.
But I think Sarah Jessica Parker has a much stronger like acting like to her character. Maybe that's because there's like more anger and frustration expressed through her character rather than Patricia Arquette's.
That's not the purpose of Patricia Arquette's purpose.
Right, exactly. That's what I mean, and maybe that's why I'm thinking that way. But yeah.
So it's almost like Sarah Jessica Parker had more to sink her teeth into with her character.
Right. Yeah. Right.
But Patricia Arquette had to play.
What I like so much about Patricia Arquette is that she does so much with so little. She doesn't have that much to do in the movie, but just her presence just speaks volumes to me. But maybe it's just because I'm a huge fan of hers in general.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was just a smaller role in general.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I mean, there's that the scene when he tells her about the sweaters. Or wearing women's clothing, and she's immediately just like, okay, she like whatever. you know, and he didn't even tell, you know, Dolores Fuller that.
Right.
Like, he clearly kept that secret from her for a while.
Right.
The only people he told right up front is the person who would either give him the job and the person who he, like, you know, had strong feelings for.
Right.
So, like, but she was great in it. She cares about him. She cares about Bella. Doesn't she, like, knit socks for Bella Lugosi, right? To give to
she knits some booties. Yep.
Booties, that's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was just fantastic. But I'm with you, Matt. She's everything she does is fantastic.
Yeah. I would have given her an Oscar long before Boyhood. Bill Murray is Bunny Breckenridge. Again, not that big of a role, but it's one of my favorite Bill Murray performances, hands down. I mean, he does so much with so little screen time. I don't even think he's in the movie for 10 minutes. And
does he improvise it at times?
Great.
Yeah. What's that?
Does he improvise it at times, or is it all like the script? Because I could see him like improvising.
I don't know. Yeah. I feel like it's scripted, but it could be typical Bill Murray improvs. I don't know. Like, do you reject Satan and all his evils? Sure.
Great. It's great, Bill Murray, and it's almost like a shame. I feel like he should have teamed up with Burton more. I think.
Yes.
I know he was considered for the Keaton role in 1989's Batman when they were doing.
He was, wasn't he? I forgot about that. Yeah.
But outside of that, this is really the only time that I could think of that he worked with Burton. But
which is kind of strange because he'd fit in really well with his other movies. He'd fit in really well.
Really, just he's hysterical.
Yeah.
And when he's outside the office and the guy's screaming and he's like, right.
That scene really stands out. It's like the one scene that's like very kind of handheld.
Yeah.
And like feels very almost out of place in a strange way, but yeah.
Yeah. You're right. That might be the only handheld scene in the movie. I'd have to look at it again. I don't know, but you're right. That is one of the few handheld scenes in the movie.
Yeah,
I'm kind of more interested in reading about his character and finding out more about him. I specifically think of like the scene where he talks about how the group of guys behind him were who saved him in Mexico, and I'm like, did this actually happen, or is this just something made up for the movie? Like,
I believe that actually happened.
Really?
I'm not 100% certain, but I think that story comes from the book.
He's playing Bunny Breckenridge, right?
Yeah. I believe most of that story comes from the book.
But the guy who's playing it is a real character as well.
Yeah.
So
right.
Yeah. I love Bill Murray in this movie.
Same.
I could, and I equally love Jeffrey Jones as Griswold. I miss seeing Jeffrey Jones in movies. It's too bad what happened to him. I think he's great in the movie. I don't have much else to say about him other than he just brings so much to a small role, and he always has. And he's great. What do you guys think of Jeffrey Jones?
Yeah, I miss him too. I liked him in Sleepy Hollow. I thought,
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, Ferris Bueller, he's a great guy,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I like when they're in the Brown Derby and when after they first meet, he's like, "How do you do all these predictions?" He's like, "That's horse shit."
Yeah, that's horse shit. I made it up.
Just a little razzle dazzle. Give them what they want.
Right.
He's like, it's perfect. He's like got the martini and
right.
Yeah.
It is that earlier. I think it's maybe the scene before that or something when Ed Wood's meeting him for the first time. Says, "I predict your next thing will be a huge smash." He's like, "Wow."
Yeah.
Ed Wood is like a little kid.
I know. I love that moment. I love that moment. Lisa Marie is Vampira. She captures the character very well. I miss seeing her in Tim Burton movies. I think I loved her in Mars Attacks. I loved her alien walk. She's got a great physical presence on camera, and I thought she did Vampira justice.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
Yeah.
Same. That's for whatever reason I'm inclined to say like that's one I don't know that I could see that role being played by anybody else in that movie. I don't know why. But
she did a great job.
Yeah,
she did a great job.
And I think that scene where she's like on the bus going to that actually happened, you know.
Yeah, I believe that she did have to take the bus. I believe she had to take the bus. I'm almost sure that's another story in the book.
Yeah, like she like did all her own makeup because it was such a low budget.
Yes.
So she's like full costume, taking like a city bus to the shoot.
To some fucking alley studio, some strange.
I don't know if that was like one of the premieres or was that one of when she was shooting Plan 9. But I
believe in the movie it's when she's shooting Plan 9. In reality, I believe in reality it was also when she was shooting Plan 9. I believe. I could be mistaken though. She could have had to do it for multiple movies for all we know.
Right.
Max Casella and Brent Hinkley as Paul Marco and Conrad Brooks. I'm only bringing these guys up because in reality, I realized when I was rewatching my disc, these two didn't get along, but they were written as kind of a pair in the movie.
Yeah, they're always like
things.
buddied up.
Yeah, they're always buddied up in the movie. So now they're eternally known as a pair when in reality they really weren't very fond of each other. But I thought they were both very good in the movie. Max Casella was in Doogie Howser. We grew up watching him in Doogie Howser as Vinny Del Pino. And I thought they were great. You kind of believed that these guys were so enthralled with what Ed Wood was doing that they'd pretty much go anywhere with him and do anything for him. So
like loyal to the end.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, just really loyal. And you meet people like that on film sets, and they really captured that well.
You know, and Ed Wood did have that group of players that they would act, they would be part of his crew, and like those guys embodied that, and they were both great on screen. And there's like that ongoing gag where they're like holding the gun up to their head and scratching their head with the gun.
Yeah.
I think in actual Plan 9, it's the guy that plays the detective who did that.
Okay.
And that actor, he actually said that he was doing that on purpose because he knew Ed Wood was not great at directing, and he was trying to see if he would catch it and tell him to not do that and scratch his head with the pistol. But in the Burton film, obviously they like play that up a lot, and both of those characters do that throughout the movie. I think even on that opening scene when they're doing the stage show and they're soldiers, I think one of them has like the gun like in a weird, like the rifle like really close to his head or something. It's like really odd.
I've never noticed that before.
Me neither.
Yeah, those guys are crazy. But yeah, I have heard that they don't like each other, and they kind of, when they would do the like sci-fi conventions and stuff, they would never go to the same ones.
No. Actors.
I don't want to name drop, but I did meet Conrad Brooks one time at a convention up but in the Cleveland area. But
really?
I asked him what it was. You know, it's nothing of a that great of a conversation, but it was real quick. I just got to say hi to the guy, but I did ask him what it was like working with Tim Burton. And he got this real genuine big smile on his face, and he said, just like Eddie Wood, he said Tim Burton was a nice guy in real life and a great director. So
good.
I mean, a very polite thing to say, but that was my one little Conrad Brooks, if you wanted to throw that out.
That's probably would have been what I asked him too, honestly. I mean, anybody who works with Tim Burton, I would want to know what's it like to work with Tim Burton. So yeah, that's awesome. And I'll skip those. I don't need to go over those. The musical score by Howard Shore. The only score for a Tim Burton movie not composed by Danny Elfman. I love this score. Howard Shore is an eclectic composer. He did a lot of Cronenberg stuff. I just rewatched Mrs. Doubtfire a couple nights ago, and he actually did the score for that. So from Silence of the Lambs to Ed Wood to Mrs. Doubtfire, I mean, this guy does just about anything. But he outdoes himself with this one. I mean, I don't think he ever did anything like it before or after, at least that in my knowledge. And I think it's one of my favorite scores of any Tim Burton movie, and I love the music in a lot of his movies. It's one of my top 10 scores of all time. I think it's just a wonderful score. It just captures this kind of effervescent spirit of Ed Wood and his optimism, but it also kind of captures the sadness and it captures this whole range of emotions, and it's quirky, it's sad, it's funny, it's just beautiful. It's just a beautiful score. It really captures the essence of these characters, and I can't say enough good things about it. What do you guys think of the score?
Agreed.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's like the one thing Danny Elfman didn't do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like very there's just it's very percussive. There's like this kind of pulse to it, like with the bongos and it's kind of beatnik and jazzy, all throughout it. But yeah, he even sneaks in the Swan Lake from Dracula in there, which was so like perfect.
Yes.
Because that's like, having watched Dracula a million times, that's the first thing you hear in that movie is that. So like seeing that was like, oh, that's correct, or hearing that was correct. But yeah, it's like it's I used to have the soundtrack. I probably do still somewhere in my CD collection, but it's fantastic. Yeah. I rewatched it. I was like, I don't know that a Danny Elfman score would have worked for this, honestly, which feels like blasphemy, right? Because I love Danny Elfman's my favorite, but like it would have been too Danny like Tim Burton-y for
it would have been too Danny Elfman. Yeah.
Right.
Danny Elfman's stuff always sounds the same. Like you can always tell it's his, and I don't think it would have worked well for this movie.
Right.
I think it's this. Go for it, Jimmy.
I would say that kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier with how this kind of stands alone when you look at Burton's body of work, and it's only perfect that this was the only one that wasn't Elfman.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It almost, it's like, I mean, that obviously, like Elfman and Burton had that little falling out with Nightmare Before Christmas, and then this came out, so he like went with Howard Shore, but like it was like, it wasn't like designed that way, but it was like it worked out perfectly. And I can't imagine it any other way.
No,
right.
I can't either. Danny Elfman would have done too typical of a Danny Elfman score. Howard Shore worked outside of his own comfort zone, and it just, I mean, again, he's made a career out of working outside of his comfort zone. But man, I mean, he hit it out of the park.
Yeah,
I think another problem is that Danny Elfman, like at least the way I view his music, because of many of the things he's done, it's like almost feels like it has like a childhood like feeling to it, cartoonish childhood. And again, that has to do with like the other stuff that he's done, but I couldn't associate it with this, like Nightmare Before Christmas, like it works well for that, but I would pick up that same feeling if he did the score for this movie too, that would be my natural interpretation of it.
Right.
No,
it's all even Darkman is not Tim Burton, but it sounds like Danny Elfman.
It sounds like a Batman 2.
Right.
Almost. Yeah. All right. What are your 3 favorite scenes from the movie? Mine are stealing the octopus and the octopus scene. Just that entire sequence of him writhing around in the water, and
that's one of mine too.
And then the Kathy Ed date that we spoke up earlier in the spook house, the one where he comes out to her and tells her he likes to dress in women's clothing. I think that scene is just I think it's simple, it's beautiful, it's touching, it's a wonderful little scene. I don't even think it's 2 minutes long. It's very Burton-esque. It's set in this Burton-esque spook house, and it's just a cool little scene. It's a beautiful little scene. And then my 3rd favorite scene would be the montage of them shooting Plan 9. I love that whole sequence with the victorious music, dun, 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 and just him like his mania and his the shot superimposed, and yeah. What are you guys' favorite scenes? What are yours, Ryan?
Top 3, definitely the octopus with just him, because I mean, that's just what, if you in that movie, that is just Bela Lugosi. I mean, it's kind of shot with some other, there's like a boulder coming down the hill and something, but like just him, saying, Yeah, it's like just when you get in there, shake his legs around, make it look like he's killing you. So he just follows the direction. It's him screaming to the top of his lungs while the octopus's head isn't moving at all, but its tentacles are being moved by him. So yeah, that definitely the play at the very beginning, when like there's just like 5 people in the audience with like the rain dropping in the theater, being collected by things, and them doing this awful scene. Just him turning, looking at the thing. Hey, I think I see something. Like, it's just so bad. Like, it's a perfect setting for like, this is where he's at in his career. He's doing these just
and you and I living in Chicago with a bunch of actor friends, we've seen our share of bad theater. So
right,
yeah,
right. I mean, the thing, at least that was funny. Like, I mean, seeing something like that would have at least been funny because it's so bad. But then that, and then probably them asking Bunny how everything went, and him saying,
I love that scene.
And that like meat packing place or whatever it was. Yeah. Probably those 3.
That's a wonderful scene. What about you, Robin?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, yes, the octopus scene, that's great. But then, like, so like, I do like the belly dancing scene partially because that's in a butcher shop at the same time, and you see the meat like in the background. Like it's just so out of place. And then like just like some of the scenes with like Bill Murray, like you were talking about, Ryan. That one is great. Also, when they're just sitting in church, and you can tell they all just don't fit in there, and they're forcing themselves to be there. I mean, like those, and like the phone conversation that he has when he's on the phone with the producer, and both of them are shouting back and forth, arguing. Like I enjoy that as well.
You can't talk that way about my movie.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. One scene that I'm not at all saying this is my favorite. Maybe I should just wait till later when we talk about it. Is the Orson Welles scene?
Yeah.
So I guess like I question this. Is this with that scene? Is it supposed to be that he's actually meeting Orson Welles, or is it that he's dreaming about meeting him?
I never thought about that.
I never did either. I always took it literally that within the movie, that never happened in reality, obviously. But I think within the reality of the movie, my interpretation was always that this was Ed Wood's dream come true, and he got to meet his hero, and that the writers wrote him a scene where Ed Wood got to meet his hero. I view it within the reality of the movie. It happened. It could be in Ed Wood's imagination. I don't know.
Earlier in the film, he's got the Citizen Kane poster behind him in the apartment. Yeah, so they're like building that. But I think that the writers, like, they really wanted to play with that dichotomy of the best director of all time, the worst director of all time, sitting down. So, but that's a cool
I guess the reason I question it is because, like, the way, like, the voiceover or whatever that's happening with Orson Welles, like, it just seems like it's more of a fantasy type of thing, and maybe that's what they're going for too, is that he's meeting him in reality, and like it's like heaven to him. I don't know.
I know that was not Vincent D'Onofrio's voice as Orson Welles. I know Tim.
Really?
Burton,
right.
Yeah, Tim Burton. Oh. Tim Burton wasn't happy with the performance, so he looped him.
Oh, I'll be damned. Who did someone else do it?
Somebody else did it. Yep. Somebody else. I'm not sure who did the actual voice, but it wasn't Vincent D'Onofrio. Yeah.
I'll be damned.
Yeah.
It is it'd be a hard voice to tackle. So
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But just Vincent D'Onofrio is so fucking good. So I was like, of course he could do this. But oh, I'll be damned.
Yeah. No, Tim Burton must have really been after something in particular. But yeah.
The scene, I have to say, the scene that cracks me up is every time it's when the studio executive is looking at his reels of Glenn and Glenda. And he's like, this got to be a put on. This is a practical joke. And he starts cracking up.
Yeah.
It's like,
he thinks it's an actual practical joke.
Yeah.
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 I do like all the intros where they had, like Tor Johnson's in the wrestling ring, and of course Lugosi's like trying out a cough, and and then
I love that introduction of Bela Lugosi.
And the music there again, Shore's music is great there.
Yeah.
But yeah, even the vampire introduction on the TV when they're watching the late night horror host, like, I mean, they're all like, I guess cliche, but I'm just like a sucker for that. And on that same note, I love that line where he's like, this is the one I'm going to be known for. It's like, I don't know, it just kind of stirs something up in me. But
absolutely.
I do like how the beginning and that whole like credit intro where it's like the push through, it goes like through the haunted house with Criswell and then through the graveyard and the lightning, and I love that.
I do too.
And I think it's worth noting that like the beginning and end are kind of bookended with rain over Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
which like speaks on such a deep level, to
Absolutely.
Ed Wood.
Absolutely.
And his whole career, and it's like, okay, he's in Hollywood. He was part of the industry, but he was an outsider.
Absolutely.
And just I think it begins and ends really well.
Yeah.
Him coming out of the coffin, and then the closing of the coffin and everything.
Originally, the script and it was shot originally with the intention of bookending the movie with a Criswell introduction and a Criswell epilogue. And they used the footage at the end, but then they decided, and I was actually going to bring this up, they decided to have the coda at the end where they told what happened to everybody after their one and only test screening. And so it didn't quite edit together with the coda Criswell's epilogue, but they used that final shot of him going back into the coffin and the camera zooming out, or dollying out, and made in Hollywood, USA.
Right.
So that's kind of interesting. Yeah. Do you guys think that the code is necessary at the end where it tells everybody?
I don't mind.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah.
I like it. Yeah. It's especially for just being like a little dipshit kid in Santa Fe, not really knowing who Ed Wood was. It kind of, because this was pre-internet, I couldn't just Google who he was, so it was like, it made me be like, this really happened, I guess. Those are always, for me, for my taste, those are always kind of risky. I'm always like, I don't know if we need these or not, but that one was totally fine.
I felt like it drove the ending home a little bit. It kind of just it gives you it's like, by the way, there was a little bit more to these people. This is what happened, and I don't know. It just it cemented the ending a little bit. It just kind of worked for me. It worked for me.
Yeah.
So you said there was that one test screening. So did they have some mixed reactions on the original ending, and then they went back and added?
I believe that there were too many questions of what happened to who. I believe that was what led them to have the coda. There was, like I said, there was only one and only test screening. I'm not 100% certain, but I believe it was that there was just people wanted to know what happened to everybody.
Yeah. So. And I like that they worked in, I think not all of them, but most of them, they work in a little joke with those too.
Yeah.
So, it's nice.
Well, like the one that I remember is Bela Lugosi outsells Boris Karloff by a substantial margin, and you see him go
just like, take that, Karloff.
Yeah. Totally. Favorite lines. I know you brought up one. I know we brought up some already, but my 3 favorite lines would be: hit the bars, work some parties, and get me transvestites. I need transvestites. That's one of my favorite lines. Let's shoot this fucker is my second favorite line. And then my third favorite line would be, these Baptists are stupid. Those are my favorite lines from Ed Wood. How about you guys?
To just go off on like your last favorite line there, like I'm just like watching the movie again. It's like, that is not a separate room. There's a wall up there. You can hear every single thing he's saying.
That never occurred to me, but you're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Like I just noticed that. Like I never thought about that before, but seeing how like that set is, I'm like, they can hear everything you are saying right now.
Yeah. I wonder if was that a move to the viewer to be like, wait, they could hear that, like in an Ed Wood type of way of like leaving out the practicality of it, of like it being a mistake? Probably not, but I don't know. I just realized that now.
No, I never occurred to me before. No. What are you guys' favorite lines?
Probably. Let's Hear You Call Boris Karloff a cocksucker when they're in the church.
That's a good one.
Bill Murray has some of the best ones.
Yes,
yes,
he certainly
yes,
does.
yes.
He certainly does.
Goodbye penis, then he bites the hot dog or something.
Yeah.
Goodbye penis.
Goodbye penis. Yes, that's a great line. That's a great line.
His story of himself like in Mexico, like and coming back yet again, like bringing up like the guys who are standing right behind him, like that.
Yeah.
If it wasn't
love
for
that.
these guys.
Yes,
It wasn't for these guys. Yes.
And they just bow.
And they bow and
this
continue
mariachi.
yes.
Probably, yeah. Let's Hear You Call Boris Karloff a cocksucker. Probably, filming movies is not about the tiny details; it's about the big picture. And probably when he asks out Vampira, and she says, "Oh, I thought you were gay." No, I'm just a transvestite.
Yeah, it's a great one. It's a great one.
It's just so kind of.
His delivery is great.
Pull the strings.
Yes. Yes. Pull the strings.
A great one.
Pull the strings.
Pull the strings. I like that.
Pull the strings. Yeah.
The autograph scene again, like I think that line is great. Him flipping out, crumbling the paper as it's happening.
Yeah.
Doesn't deserve to smell my shit.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. And last topic, we pretty much covered this one, so we probably don't have much to say, which is where does this rank in Tim Burton and Johnny Depp's filmographies? I think it's Tim Burton's second best movie after Edward Scissorhands, which is a tall order for me to compare to because Edward Scissorhands is my favorite movie. And like I said earlier, I think it's Johnny Depp, might very well be Johnny Depp's best performance ever. So do you guys have any additional thoughts or?
No, nothing different from what we've already said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, for Burton and Depp, very high on that list for me.
Yeah.
And I will say that I really like Mars Attacks a lot, but I think that I like Mars Attacks more than I would have because Ed Wood preceded it.
Right.
You could argue that back to back Tim Burton made two Ed Wood movies with Hollywood scale budgets, and those are Ed Wood and Mars Attacks.
Yeah.
And I feel
think that's part of the reason like Tim Burton does such a good job with this movie is because like looking at what he did with Mars Attacks, it's like, oh yeah, he has that same like 1950s sci-fi thing going on with it. You know?
Tim Burton, he has a lot of the same obsessions as Ed Wood. They both really they share a lot of common tastes, and it's particularly reflected in Ed Wood, of course, and in Mars Attacks. So yeah,
right. They were both like comic book or like nerds, right? Like,
oh sure.
Did it like? Yeah, I
don't think Tim Burton's much of a comic book guy, but
like the pulp magazines and
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Then Tim Burton likes is it Edward Gorey? Ed Gorey?
I don't know.
The artist, you mean? Yeah, he does. Yeah, you can see like that he likes this type of work. Yeah.
Like I know he's definitely said he loves his art, and you could tell kind of by looking at it. Yeah. It's like,
yeah, for sure,
really Tim Burton-y.
Yeah. I think Edward Gorey's the name that I'm trying to think.
Right?
Of.
Yeah, it is.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I was trying to think it might be something different, but all right.
Sure.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, this was a blast, guys. Thank you all so much. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we will see you next time. Thank you for tuning in.